Hola, hola, hello, everybody. Let me turn down this music a little bit. It's very loud in my ears. I'm sorry. We're live. We're back again. Black Game Pro Sessions, episode number 5. For the people joining from all over the world, because I know I see you all registering for these sessions, and I see you like from Africa to the States to Europe, all kind of people registering for these sessions to watch this. So thank you so much. It's appreciated to get all this support. Really, without you, it would be just me talking to a void together with a wonderful guest. So once again, thank you. If you have any questions for today's guests, put them in the chat. I should be able to see them here on the stream as well, and then we'll do our best to respond to as many questions as possible. If you guys are shy, which you can also be, that's fine. We'll ask. I have enough questions for the next guest, because the next guest, easy. We were just having our kind of like pre-conversation before. This man is a legend. He might not see himself like this, but for me, he's a legend. With what he did for the Black and Gaming Awards, that's something that inspired me and the team back in the days to start the Black Game Pros Mixer. So I'm very happy to have him here. Before I get him on stage, for the people that don't know me, I don't expect everybody to know me. My name is Leon. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years, producing events and experiences for Ubisoft. And with Black Game Pro Sessions, we really try to create a platform that amplify stories from amazing people that have been doing amazing things in our industry. All right, so let me get into our guests, because you don't need to care about me. It's not about that. Our guest tonight is a definition of a reader turned will builder. Born and raised in Chicago, shaped by film school out Columbia College, tempered in Hollywood with amazing people then, and anchored as a teacher and narrative consultant in Phoenix. Along the way, he helped build the Black and Gaming Awards, like I mentioned, into a platform that honors our legends and forces their industry to remember its pioneers. On the game side, because, man, he's the contributor to games like Dragon Age, Street Fighter 6, Need for Speed, Wildflowers, and alongside a long list of other indie projects. What drives him is servant leadership, which I totally respect, non-transactional networking. And what he's focused on now is launching his own universes. So, please, Black Game Pros, welcome senior narrative designer, educator, and community builder, Carl Varnado. Let me bring him to the stage.
Hello! I'm trying to find this person you're talking about, who you're referring to.
It's you.
Lovely, nice. You. Amazing. Thank you for having me, Leon. I appreciate being on your podcast. It's an incredible honor to be here.
No, it's the honor is all mine. I mean, you have a super busy schedule, and I know that you're back to back today. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you kind of missing out the lunch of your kid and giving the help, not being able to do that. So really, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Gotcha.
All right.
Thank
you. Always these awkward openings. I love awkward openings.
I'm ready for rapid fire. So
Exactly.
I'm like on the cusp for the rapid fire.
Oh. Yeah, you're an amped for it. I love it. All right, so the rapid fire is really about short answers.
Gotcha.
Asking a question, you give short answers. First thing that comes to mind. There's no wrong answers. So first question: what is the book that made you want to write? Something that you read as a kid.
The Art of Dramatic Writing by Lajos Egri. It is the definitive book about dramatic writing. It explains to you how writing works for visual writing works, and it defines. It's the first book that asks you, like, what defines story? Is it character or is it plot? And when you're starting out and as somebody who wants to be a writer, it's the part you don't know. You don't know how plot works or how character works. So although I was a reader, I was an avid reader as a kid. The keep the answer short. The Art of Dramatic Writing by Lajos Egri. It's from 1911.
That sounds like heavy reading as a kid. How old were you when you read that?
Well, I was in grad school.
Okay. It's like I don't know. I mean, you never know. Okay. The first film that you watched that rewired your brain, something that made an impact on you, like, oh my god.
The Rewiring the Brain, The Matrix, because it was metaphoric. The Matrix is probably the first film that rewired my brain, for sure.
Matrix, man. Oh man, that was I love that movie. The first one. After that, it kind of went downhill, and the last one was
it fell apart. But the first one.
Oh my god, completely. Even though I did love the Matrix demo that they did on Unity, the world. Oh my god, that was. And also the fact that they build AI in that one. Not sure if you've seen that video. That was amazing. Anyway, all right, next one. You were a GDC volunteer. Kudos for that. What's a memory? One of those early memories of you being a volunteer that you still tell to your to the people.
I have dozens of GDC volunteer memories. My second session I ever volunteered for was Richard Dansky's first session that he ever spoke at. So I was terrified. Wow. I was meeting him for the first time, and he was terrified because it was his first speech. That's how I met him. So I met him in his first session, and that was there weren't many writers at GDC, so that was my first session with Richard Dansky, and that's how I got to know him. And then then I met Wozniak came into the lounge one time and hung out, which was kind of cool. So like that was a pretty overwhelming experience. Talking to Will Wright about his games in the lounge a couple of times, which is a really interesting experience. Being like my first 3 or 4 years in the industry and having those kind of legends like just stop by the lounge, hey, what are you guys doing? You just kind of talking like these industry pioneers. And then then my one of my other guys, the first guy I ever had dinner with at GDC was one of the creators of Virtual Fighter, which was one of the biggest moments of my life to actually have dinner with somebody who had done Virtual Fighter at that time in my life, and I never even knew about how to get in the industry, and that was a big deal.
Oh man, I've spent so many hours playing that game.
Yes.
that brought back memories. Oh my god, Virtual Fighter. Yeah. We actually have a rapid fire question from an audience member.
Okay.
From Toei. What are some of your favorite classic video games? Top 2, 3.
Top 3 games: Super Metroid, Zelda: Ocarina of Time. It's probably my favorite game of all time. So going to classic. Oh, Tecmo Bowl. I played Tecmo Bowl like a crazy person when I was a kid. And
Tecmo, I don't know that one.
Tecmo Bowl predates Madden. Like that was before Madden was Madden. Tecmo Bowl was Tecmo Bowl. If you don't know a Tecmo Bowl, anybody in the audience is gonna say Bo Jackson and Tecmo Bowl was the greatest video game character of all time. And then to this day, I can still beat Punch Out. Still to this day, I think I can beat Mike Tyson to Punch Out. Still to this day, I think I still have the skills. Punch Out was my game.
We want to see that. We want to see that. Like you're putting it out in the universe now.
I think I still remember the code. This is 007-373-5963. I think that's the code for Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
All right, viewers, if you know about this, I can't verify, so I'll just take it. Favorite games this year, and then after that, we're gonna get into your real story. Your game of the year.
Favorite game this year. I gotta give credit to the Tetris Connected is one of my. That's the game I'm playing most of the last couple of years. Balatro I've been playing a lot of. Of course, Jedi Fallen Order I think was one of the great games the last couple of years. I just discovered Fist. It's not brand new, but it was my PS Premium. I played that all summer, and then I'm revisiting Horizon. So I'm back to my friend L'Oreal showed me how to get rid of the motion blur on my PS5. So now I can play more 3D immersive games without feeling dizzy. And so I'm playing Horizon.
Horizon is great. I actually picked that one up. I think last year for the first time. And yeah man, that's a good one. Great storytelling. Great storytelling.
It is great storytelling. It's absolutely outstanding. So I've been playing Horizon. That's what I've just kind of restarted this week, like this last couple weeks.
All right. Well, thank you for the rapid round. I think our vocal cords have warmed up now, so we can dive into the meat and bones of this conversation. And I've done I've done a lot of research about you, and just it's kind of normal to start at kind of the origin story, because I think that kind of creates the foundation of who you are. I think as a man or as a grown-up, as you can say that. So because you started as an English major deep in Pan-African activism film school, then that first spark at GDC that led you into games. So what was the moment that made you realize, like, I can do all of this? Because that's it
was if I tell the story, it's a crazy moment. It's I'm in film school and I'm and my friend want to make some money because we're in a trail hustling game. 24.
Yeah, of
Couch
course.
Trinell Bland, my animator friend, and we go to Trinell is now like he was like senior director for Avatar. He was like on the Avatar stuff, But back then he's a film student like I am, so we're going to shoot these commercials. So I had a friend who ran his club, the infamous club called E2 that had all of the had an accident years later. It had a restaurant called Epitome on the first floor. So we went to that restaurant. We were hanging out, and we were in line because the guy had overbooked so much that we were in line to meet him, like 5 deep. And the guy in line with us was talking like, "What do you guys do?" Because we carried a camera, obviously, and doing stuff. And he was like, "What do you guys do?" And we were like, we just shoot movies." And he was like, somebody should create a black video game, not a black film. Black films are old. This is like the Love Jones era and like all that stuff. I was like, black video game. He was like, yeah. And so I kind of walked away. And I was like, And then Trinell, who was an animation major, was like, well, it's all the same software. He explained to me what Maya was and all the other things. And so I went down and I kind of mapped out like what a black video game might look like. If I would always create a black video game, what would it look like? And I sat down and about 6 months later, I created a company. I had called my friends in different majors because everybody's graduating college and put together a little team. And about 6 months later, I figured I had no idea what I was doing, but I had a company created. And so then I found Gama Sutra because I did a design document to get funding for the company, and I found GDC through Gama Sutra, and then I went to GDC, and that's the first time I was like, oh, this is how this industry actually works. And so then I studied it for 2 years, and then the company did not put the game out. We got to like the alpha stage, but then the other people in the company wanted to make a racing game. I created a Black History time travel Zelda like thing, and it was really creative. I had found all these different research things that no one had even talked about yet. So I had I had Massa Musa in there. I had both slave trades, the Brazilian one and the American one, and you went and fought. You freed people in both slave times. Like it's really an ambitious like Black History, change history game, and like it was probably $100 million idea. So my team was like, this is really hard, but it was, and I remember like even like the idea in it. There was a part of the game where one of the beginnings of the game is that you come in. One of the parts of the game was like, because I was going to have this Pan-African mode in my life. So one of the parts of the game was like you had to free yourself. So actually in the beginning of the game, you fight this monster, and at the end of the game, you find out the monster is you, like, because you come back from a time loop, and like, and then and you find out that the thing you were fighting was the hero that comes back, and like you turn into a monster at the beginning of the game. You don't know you're infected with something, and you come back, and the hero actually fought you and freed you from the monster. It was like this time loop we had created. It was a really cool idea, like. And then one of the other things that was in that game that was really interesting because it was called Makar Revelations Destiny, and Destiny was a girl in the game. And one of the parts of the game that I really wanted to do, because I was really big on including women protagonists in the game, was halfway through the game, you get captured and Destiny has to come rescue you. And so that was part of the game we wanted to put in there too. That was a really interesting idea, was that Destiny has to come find you and you're actually enslaved by like the British. And they find you like on a hill, like you're like a whole old man, and she has to come free you. So it was a whole thing. Yeah, it was a crazy game. It was a crazy idea. Like, nuts.
That's like this super ambitious. Like, were you like, are you naturally like ambitious or something? Because you were young. When you were a student at that time, you were like, let me create a game. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. My first screenplay. I remember my first screenplay. My friends would be like, "You can't even film this. Like, this is not even like you gotta get some scope down, Carl." So I had to learn how to get scope. Scope was probably the hardest thing for me to learn in my ambitions, because I was a Star Wars kid. I was a Star Wars, and I grew up on Star Wars, Indiana Jones. I was probably George Lucas, Spielberg, Henson, probably my three most influential figures as far as like idea making when I was a young kid. You know what I mean? Like, I admired other people. Like, I admired Spike Lee. I admired other black filmmakers, Robert Townsend from Chicago too. But I didn't. They didn't ever like really like. But the language I spoke was in Lucas, Spielberg, and like Henson. You know what I'm saying? And then the first big film that going back to your original question about Deep Cover, Bill Duke's film was one of the very first films I went. That was a work of art. That was
Mhm.
I remember watching that film. It was a work of art. Yeah, it was actually pretty big for me. But
I mean, yeah, man, that's super impressive. Like the fact how your brain indeed works, and that at such a young age you were thinking of all these kind of things. That is impressive, man. And it also sounds like you leverage the network that you had around you to kind of like test your ideas and then see if it was possible. And then they told you like you're crazy.
yeah, I gotta give a shout out. My father passed recently, and I gotta give him a shout out in this discussion because my father
my
was a
condolences.
very influential civil rights person, and so he had all these
Mhm.
different friends in the rights movement, and so his network's really important to him. Probably a little bit too important to him sometimes, but like
Mhm.
he kind of like instilled in me like your network's everything, So like he was always big on like keep your friendships close,
Yep.
and so I was really big on like, all right, my friendship should last throughout situations. And so
Mhm.
I've always kind of carried that. If you know me pretty well, I'm always about I mean, I can give a lecture on networking. Networking is like one of my biggest things in life.
And non-transactional networking, right? That's the thing.
Non-trans.
Um.
That's the reason I love Hollywood. Hollywood. The
Yep.
reason why I love Hollywood is because like a lot of Hollywood situations are all transactional networking, and
Oh yeah.
it's so deflating. Like when you have a conversation
Oh
with
yeah. I agree.
somebody, and then they're assessing you like, okay, so can you have my project or not? And then like
Mhm.
the moment they
Like,
start, you
what can you
can't
do for me?
wait.
Yeah. Yep.
It's such a sad thing, When I didn't like going through that every day, So I can do it sometimes. I can't
Mhm.
do it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, dude, it's a story of my life indeed when you talk about like transactional networking that people reach out to you because they want something from you instead of like reaching out to a person
Yes.
because you're interested in having a human conversation with that one. It's always like, okay, what can you do for me? It always ends up with, can you sign here? Can you support this? And can you do this? While my opinion, and I assume it's also yours, where it's like just have a human conversation, just
Yes.
let's vibe, and if business happens from that, nice. It is not, also perfectly fine. And these people that you might not do business with, they might turn into your mentors.
Absolutely. And to add to that is the other part of transactional networking is people only talk about the thing they're doing right now, right? So like
Mm.
they don't talk about the thing they did in the past, which we have in common with them, right? So like when, for instance, like you worked in hip hop and you did events. Well,
Yep.
I did that too. I did that in my career too. But if we talk about our video game stuff, we would know the other commonality that would make us like more united in that idea, right? And I think people just focus on
Mhm.
the new stuff versus like you may have that experience, you may have gone through that. Like they spend way too much time focused on what's in front of me right now. Okay, I gotta get a job. What what I need to get a job. Like it's really sad.
It is, but it's I think people are just, especially nowadays, they're used to instant gratification, so they
Yeah.
also approach, I think, with that kind of mindset business, like, okay, now I want to have it now, instead of building a project or building a career. I
Yes.
mean, I've been in the industry for 20 years. It took a while. I mean, maybe I could have done it faster. Maybe maybe I'm like an old guy with like, oh yeah, I missed the boat. But things can take time, and good things take time.
Mhm. Also, volunteering
Mm,
creates the space for
great
you.
opportunity. Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean? So like to expect something without doing anything at all is a really sort of ridiculous idea. Like, like so you're gonna just walk into a situation and be like, I'm here, who's ready to help me? Like
Hmm.
that's not how like energy works. Like you walk in and say, how can I help? Like you walk in a situation like how can I be of service? And that
Yep.
creates bonding with people, it creates ideas with people, it creates synergy with people, and then you get stuff on the back end that you can't even see coming. But
Yeah.
this idea that
100%.
people are supposed to be like, especially when you're young, like when you're in your 20s and you're coming out of college and you're like, well, I'm just going to get a job because I talked to you and you're going to give me a job. The idea of that is so on its face egotistical. It's beyond it sometimes. Like why does he have to help you? He doesn't have to help you. Like help that person. Like
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
No. Please don't apologize, man. Please keep it coming. I mean, you already kind of like, not hinted. You mentioned it already. Is like transactional networking in Hollywood. is the main thing. How they work there. You've worked in Hollywood and you work with
Yes.
Hollywood folks. What was your, first of all, how did you get into that? And second of all, what was your experience there?
Shout out to Columbia College. So Columbia College is a great film program, and they have a semester in LA program. So I went to semester in LA after I did 2 degrees at Columbia. Oh,
Yeah.
let me back this story up a little bit. All right.
Yep.
I give lots of shout outs here because I want to make sure everybody understands this journey because it's a really unique journey. My grandmother is a very faith-based person. I graduated college. Now let me give this context too. I graduated college having been a student government president and vice president of that university. So I had been top of the food chain as far as like being known and having all the things. And I graduated with no plan whatsoever. I just graduated and was like, okay, I'm out here. I'm gonna do this thing. And no one cared in the world about my like little accolades at Benedictine University, right? Which is a great place to go, but I had nothing. I had no plan. Very humbling. Came home, lived at home, was miserable, and worked at a .com. That was 2.5 hours on the bus from my house. Every day I had to go a 2.5 hour bus ride, a 2.5 hour bus ride. There's two trains, 1 bus ride. That folded. I went to Columbia basically because I walked into the building and asked about housing, and the security lady named Mary said, "We don't have graduate housing here, but we have a graduate assistant program." And she gave me this. She gave me the information about this job, and that job gave me the housing and the tuition to go to graduate school because part of the job was getting tuition.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So make that long story short. So I was a second BA film student because the graduate film program had passed when I applied to the college. So I was debating what to do. I wrote my first screenplay, and we were in the class had a good reaction to it. So me and my friend named Joe, we were debating it at the end of the class. It was a Friday afternoon. And Joe was like, just become a second BA student. You can get your second BA in film here. And I was like, oh, okay. And as we're having this discussion, it's a Friday on at university. No one's there anymore, and everybody had left. And we were walking out, and these guys came in, and they had a film crew. They were like talking, and they walked right, like, "Hey, how you guys doing?" They start talking. Like, my name is Bob Title. My name is George Tillman. We're the producer and director of Barbershop. And our new film's coming out called Men of Honor. And we're doing a press release, a press thing for it. I was like, really? And they're like, yeah. So come in and watch our thing. So we watched them, we had lunch with them, we watched them. And so I was like, if there's ever been a sign I should become a filmmaker, this is it. I mean, the day I'm debating it, the most famous guys from Columbia come in.
Yeah, exactly. So
I became friends with them. And then 2 years later, I went to Hollywood, talked to them a little bit. So I went back to Columbia, got my graduate degree. So I got married in that interim. I did a game company in the interim. I did some other projects. Then my wife, then my wife wanted to move to LA because she was doing a physical therapy in a physical therapy residency. So we went to LA. But we went to LA the year Obama got elected. So the economy crashed like the day we moved to LA. Just wiped out. So okay, so my dad had really good friends from Chicago. One of them was a guy named Ernie Banks. Ernie Banks is a famous baseball player with Mr. Cub. And Ernie was kind of like my godfather. So I called Ernie and I was like, "Hey, I'm in LA. I need to get a job." And he made like 4 phone calls to different directors, and I interviewed with them. And I liked Bill Duke. And then I signed with Bill Duke and worked with his company for 2 years. And that was my first introduction to Hollywood. I got to LA. This is when Facebook was actually very useful. And so I got to LA. I actually did a search for like Los Angeles, and I had a bunch of friends from high school that had moved to Los Angeles I didn't realize. And one of them was a lawyer, so I got an entertainment lawyer right away. And so I got into the film industry from that situation.
Wow. It's you're telling the story is like it's a normal thing. It just happened, you know. It did for you. I mean, kind of just happened. You were there, right time, right place. But still, that is almost like sounds like serendipitous. Like it was supposed to happen.
Maybe the other part. My best friend's a DJ. He had come to LA for that week for some reason because he was DJing Tony Rock's birthday party, and so we went to, and one of his best friends is Kanye's manager. So because him and Kanye grew up in the same neighborhood. So I went to their session, and I had come to LA with some projects. One of them was a transmedia, the video game concept. One was I had written this biblical series about King David. I wanted to get sold, and I had pitched that to Warner Brothers. And so I was showing Simeon Rice, who was an NFL Tampa Bay Buccaneer. He went to our high school, so he was there because he was talking to them about his sister wanted to be in music or something, but he always wanted to go to film school. He was the person I used to argue with about film school when we were younger. So he was like, "Carl, what you doing?" So he was like, he kind of verified for me like I was on the right direction. So he was like, I like that's something I'd be interested in, but you got to get more behind it. So I kind of got to a place where I was like, okay, I could do this, you know. And so the confidence kind of came back, and so then I was like, okay, so we're gonna go. So I worked with Will Duke for 2 years and worked on co-projects, including like we were going to do a web series for Anthony Zucker from CSI. He ended up doing Dark Girls a couple years later, and then I left that to teach because I was a little burnt out in Hollywood. I was a little burnt out in the system, and then so I still volunteered, though I learned from volunteering. So I ended up volunteering for Produce By Conference, and then I met Reginald Hutland there, and I met a couple of people there. So that was like my next part. Yeah.
Reginald, hey, that's also a legend. The legend.
Yeah. I've spent some time with him a couple of times now. Although he probably doesn't remember. He never remembers me after I see him, but I see him. I've been with him like 6 times. Every time it's like, "Who are you again?"
He probably remembers you.
I sent you a picture email from us hanging out. He's like, "Yeah, but who are you again?" You know, JJ Abrams. Yeah.
Oh, but okay, so from Hollywood, where I think a lot of people will be like, yeah, that's the dream. People want to work in Hollywood. It's all like glitter, glamour, amazing. You work with these people, you meet amazing creatives. You still had the urge at the same time to also further explore your gaming, the game writing, like the game narrative that you're writing.
Yes.
So what was the moment that you decided to transition? Because indeed, Hollywood kind of didn't say burned you out, but like, you know, it's what Hollywood does. It can be tiring. So you went into teaching.
Yeah, so
and then,
let's call it Rick Dansky and Toya Finley. So there's a bunch of game writers. So I had never not wanted to do game writing. It just wasn't a really stable job. Like if you look at game writing in the 2000s, if you said you were a writer, people were like, why would you need that in gaming? Like, so when the title changed narrative designer, like a couple years later, then everybody knew how to market it. But if you market yourself as a writer in the 2000s, it didn't really go anywhere. So I had never not advertised as being a writer. I just didn't know how to sell it. And then I went to narrative designer. And so because I had, I got a second degree in film. My master's was in media management. And so my thesis was how to create a transmedia empire. So that's my actual thesis. So I wrote a screenplay, a game design document, a business plan, and I actually created the artwork for a whole transmedia property. And so I had it's like a 50-page document. And so I had this thing I created, thinking I was I think it's ridiculous now as I say it. I was gonna walk into Los Angeles and be like, here's my thing. Okay, make this Star Wars franchise. Let's go. Because I had watched all the documentaries and stuff. And so like I thought, it was like Lucas did. I was gonna go in and get this guy storyboard all my stuff for me and make it in me. So
sorry to interrupt, but like you're skipping like a few like very important steps, like, because how did you know how to create these kind of documents and these packages to pitch your ideas? Because
so film school will teach you how to do pitch because everybody wants to pitch in film school, right? Then GDC had all these like sessions on like how to create like narrative stuff, right? So I would go to these like day-long workshops every year, right? And like learn how to. So you're in film school on your left hand, and the right hand you're going all this game design stuff. You're like, okay, so I started reading more books. Like, so you start reading books about narrative design. I started reading books about. I read everything I could think of, and then and so then I started studying. I give a blessing because Zelda Ocarina of Time, because it's such a real written Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. I was like, okay, and I went back and deconstructed the whole writing for it. And once I deconstructed the acts for it, I could then I was able to deconstruct any video game. I was like, okay, so now I know how to deconstruct how they built
it. On the formula. Yeah.
Boulder theories, like here's a boulder that doesn't work. You get this boulder that you get the ice boulder doesn't break. You get the fire boulder that like. So I was like, oh, that's how they figure out. So then I took a intermediate, what is it called? Interactive writing class, and that was like all about like how you create narrative branches. And I had read Choose Your Own Adventures when I was a kid, like all the time. So like I had done sort of interactive play when I was a kid. So I was like, oh, this is how this works. And sometimes one day it just clicks to you, like, oh, okay, this is how all this works together. Got you. And I'm kind of a story savant. It's kind of part of my expertise. So like, if you tell me,
sounds like it, yes.
So if you tell me like, Carl, I have this idea, like I want to do this story. I can tell you what's wrong with the story in the pitch. I can like, if you tell me like right away, I can tell you like, nope, the grandma's out of change the grandma to this. Like I can do that in the discussion. So I'm really good at like discussion based like helping. And so what that led me is to have really, really, really good creative conversations because I'm valuable to people who want to create things because they can just call me like, I'm stuck on this thing. I know how to ask the questions, but like, okay, so this doesn't make sense. This doesn't add up. This doesn't equal. Change this, so that makes sense.
Wow. Dude, you're impressive, man. That is very impressive. And thanks for sharing that how your brain works because it
does. I would say like the most valuable episode of television for me learning was Seinfeld's The Opposite. Because if you watch the opposite episode, so the opposite episode's about George, and so you look at the episode, Seinfeld has basically a cross matrix. So George and Elaine are opposite characters, and Jerry and Kramer are opposite characters. And so when you look at that episode, George and Elaine, they kind of cross. So like George at the bottom, Elaine's at the top, and they kind of cross in the middle. And then now Elaine's at the bottom, George at the top. And same thing with Kramer and Jerry. And that's the first time, like, oh, balance. So that's how I learned balance. Like, if you balance a story, you can have these opposite characters. They always have different approaches. And so then that's when you like kind of figure, oh, so if I create our wants to be opposite, then whenever I introduce, they always going to have an opposite dramatic issue. Once they have the opposite dramatic issue, then they're going to clash, and that creates drama or comedy depending on what you're doing. So that's how you set the story correctly. And most people don't set the story correctly. They start with the arc of the character versus giving the character an opposite person who cares about the thing differently, which is a great disagreement.
You're giving like a short masterclass here on narrative design. Thank you. Like you can send the invoice afterwards. Oh my God, that's one of the things I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I'm like on the communication side, and I always have so much respect for the creatives, the people that actually create the games, like yourself, that help drive that narrative, that indeed that has seen through the matrix and can manage to like bring all these lines together in something that makes so much sense. So wow, that's impressive, man. I can only like applaud that because like, I mean, that's like a superpower. You've been in
the industry 20 years at only Ubisoft, right?
Yep.
That is an accomplishment on its own accord. You need kudos for that. No one really understands how hard it is to be African American in the industry as a whole, but to be at one company the entire time and navigate that. And Leon, I mean, there's lots of flowers you should have that you haven't gotten yet, man. I just want to say that.
I appreciate that. Same goes for you. I mean, what you are doing and what you've done in not just in Hollywood, which is appreciated, but what you've brought from that Hollywood experience, from your education, from your mentors into gaming, on your work on Dragon Age or Street Fighter, dude, these are legendary games, man. That's like your name is attached to that. It's like etched in stone. But seriously, how did you transition from being an amazing narrative designer into working on these quadruple A games?
So my agency, the Halp Network, is a credible company, and they call me oftentimes. Like, "Get me help with this project. Can you help with this project?" They often set it up.
Oh wow.
Kate Edwards is a great mentor. She often will call me and be like, "Hey, I'm working on this thing. Can you give some cultural context to it? Can you give some help with narrative design to it?" And then I get hired in that regard. Like, there's a lot of people that I that have helped me along the way. That and that's why I say it's so important not to have transactional relationships. I never envisioned Kate would ever hire me for a project ever. Like we were friends by GDA, and her being executive director, and her helping with starting the IGA Black named Sig. So I never ever envisioned like she would at someone they call me and say, "Hey, can you work on this project with me?" Like when she was first up, I put on Street Fighter with her. So like you just never know. So I think my agent's really really good. They've got numerous credits across the board. I wish I got on the Jedi one though. That's the one I wish they had called me about. For they worked on Star Wars. I'm always if I could ever get my name in a Star Wars title, it'd be the coup de grace. Like I'm always excited about that. So, but like
let's put it out there in the ether.
Yeah,
You're gonna work with Star. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen
at some point in my life. But so so that was part of it, and then being ready for the moment. Like when it happened, when I got the call for Need for Speed, like just got to be kind of like, okay, so I'm having this interview, I'm having this discussion. How can I be of service? I can be of help, And the big thing about games, the different from movies is, in movies you are the author. In games, you are the facilitator, which is different writing wise. So when anybody who hires you for a game project is coming to you with ideas they already have about what they want to do, it's very, very, very rare as a writer you're going to be able to author their idea from scratch, unless you're now a studio head or a creative designer. So your job then is to be like, okay, so what are they trying to accomplish? And are they doing what they say they're going to do? So the first thing I look for is cohesion. Okay, you have this design document here. You have these 16 pages. Page 4 is not page 4 is not match page 8. Why? Because what you're looking for is to see, are they clear on what they want to do? And if they are clear, then let me bring it to life. But also, can I help them understand their idea better? So I see that as a facilitation process versus a
which is even more like difficult, because you have these creatives that are like, oh, I have this idea, but I don't know how to write it. I don't know how to put it on paper, how to make it make sense. And then they bring you in. And indeed, you're the facilitator then to help them turn their vision into something that works narratively.
Yes, that's the goal. That's sometimes confusing because people think that you're supposed to author it. But if you author it, what I've learned is everybody's just going to fight you later on. Because people are very possessive of their ideas. So you go and say, okay, then you make a suggestion that hopefully will realize their vision in a way that makes them feel better about, like, okay, here's this idea, all right, can you add this to the copy or not,
Okay, so let's go dive concretely in one of the titles that you worked on. There's also a question from Kevin regarding Street Fighter 6. So let's dive into Street Fighter 6. Like, give us one moment in that process where you push for a story beat that almost didn't make it, and why it in the end worked out.
Okay, Street Fighter, I was more of a consultant. So I was particularly brought in to help with Kimberly, and because Kimberly was a very, very scary proposition for them. They're doing this African-American girl. She's hip-hop based. She's got all these different things to it, and there's so much that could go. If the slicing goes wrong with that character, they are going to get destroyed, right? Like, so they needed people to come in and be like, hey, here's what we can do with this character, So like, I went in and just really consulted on Kimberly and spent time with her, not on story beats or anything, just on making sure that character did justice to the community and made them look good when they did it. So we gave some suggestions that really took and made positive. I worked with Urias on that, my guy who helped me build narrative. We both came in and just really consulted on the hip hop and authentication about Kimberly. That's really what my Street Fighter 6 experience was. We worked with other characters too, but that was the main one I'm really proud of.
So okay, but then there probably was one or two things that you pushed for Kimberly that maybe the producers were like,
yeah, but
or did they give you? I'm not asking for like specific, but how do you then convince them to, like, no, actually you should do this? And were there moments where you indeed convinced them?
This is the Pan-African, stuff. So even though Columbia did a lot for my development as a creative, Benedictine did a lot for me, like documenting while I'm writing in a cultural context, right? So like I went back and documented this is what a inspiration looks like in this context. This is what a stereotype looks like in this context. Here's what you should know historically and genetically about this is what if you have this type of clothing on this person, this is what this might look like. You have this type, this is how I might interpret it. So just those little notes, because one of the
important though.
Yeah, one of the issues sometimes is when you're doing something from another culture, you don't know what's inspiring you about the culture, right? So like I've done several projects now where like the 70s. So like let's say you love Snoop Dogg. You like somebody who works at the game company. You love Snoop. Just love Snoop. He's your guy. But you don't know Snoop is inspired by 70s blaxploitation films, right? Yep. So you don't know that Snoop was pulling from another source for his inspiration. And so you're not doing interpretation of interpretation. And so now so Snoop is not stereotypical, but the version you doing of him might be, because you don't know the source material. So then I go back and say, no, this is actually pulled from this movie, and this is what happens in that film.
Wow.
Like, you can't use that. Now here's what you might use instead of that, because you think your idea is good, but it's rooted in this idea, and you got to watch this idea. And so I'm really good at like sussing them out. And because I went to a very conservative college where I was a radical Pan-Africanist, I had to defend myself all the time on silly stuff like that, all the time.
Yeah, but I mean that is super valuable for these companies, that they have someone like you that they can that you can consult them and educate them on. Actually, if you make this choice in hairstyle or clothing style, it might provoke something that you don't want to provoke. Wow.
Right. Especially if that wasn't your intention. Your intention wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. It's kind of this is kind of linked to my next question regarding kind of servant leadership, something that you've mentioned a lot in other interviews and in the past. Something that you mentioned that you picked up during the volunteering during GDC. So how now in the position that you are, what does it actually look like from a day-to-day basis, working in a creative team or with creatives, or even in your teaching job?
Servant leadership. The premise of servant leadership is the higher you go, the more titles you get, the more prestige you get, the more service you owe people. So it's an inverted model. You don't think when you climb the ladder you get more important and everybody serves you and everybody's on your whim. It's like, no, you're here to make everybody else's life easier and better, because you have that you have the ability to make that happen. And so GDC, so the CA program, the Conference Associate program, was run by Tim and Ian back then, and Tim Bringle and Ian, and they would often have this like pyramid, and they would just invert the pyramid and say, okay, this is how it normally works. Here's the inversion of the pyramid. So you serve. We're at the bottom. You guys are in the patrons at the top. We go up the pyramid like that. And so what I do in that situation is I look and say, okay, I have an ability to have meetings people don't have, or have discussions people don't have. How can I help the most amount of people doing that, or help specific people doing that? So what's the goal of that? So it's not really always about like, how do I get ahead? It's about how do I take what I've got influence upon and make sure, or try to help other people get where they want to be. But that can be also daunting, because you can also take it for granted when you do that, right? So you have to like really guard and boundary yourself about, I'm not a wish fulfiller.
So like, how do you build in these boundaries for yourself then?
So this is something I had to learn relatively not too long ago, right? So setting up the systems for success for other people, but not necessarily the requests of other people, right? So like okay, so here's what I think is going to help you, but you're not going to know I set it up until we announce it. But I'm not here. I'm not here to fulfill your wishes. You want to do blah 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 blah. That's not my job. Like I'm here to set up things to make sure that you have an opportunity that you might not be there, or the people that are doing it didn't know it was possible to have the opportunity, right? But I have gotten the calls, especially when I was executive director of Black and Gaming, to be like, hey, I want this blah blah blah. Can you do this for me? And I used to be immediately like, sure, let me, and then I realized like, oh wait, this is a job. People think I'm supposed to just make this happen. So I was like, okay. So the re-ask question, okay, cool. What do you want to accomplish by that? all right, who are you going to contact to make that happen? You know, like turn it back on them. Like, okay, how are you going? Mentorship is not magically me doing things. And if you're stuck, I may come in and help them. But if you're not serving anybody, then it's just about you, and that becomes apparent like over time. Like, because when you just do favors for people don't understand how ungrateful they can come off. Because I have definitively seen me like work my tail off for somebody to get them something, and then they don't go to the thing they asked for.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like I had to like beg somebody to get you in the door. You're like, oh well, you know, my grandma's in town. I'm gonna say more to that. You know, like, okay, well, yeah, that's in the back. I'm not doing that no more. You know, like,
yep. Yeah, you know, you live and you learn, and sometimes you have to burn yourself a few times that same thing. You know, sometimes you have to learn the hard way. Like, oh yeah, that's why we need boundaries. That's why, indeed.
That's
you know,
why boundaries.
Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk legacy. You already mentioned Black in Gaming Awards. Let's talk about Gerald Lawson. Please, you've met the guy a few times. You created the Gerald Lawson Award. Please take me there. How did that? How take me on that journey, please.
One of the great humbling moments of my life, man. So now I want to iterate back to the stories about me creating the black company. Right, the first 8 or 9 years I went to GDC. Not everybody black in the industry went to GDC. Like, it was like about. It was kind of like arranged about 30 when I first started, to about maybe 200, like about 2010. So I was arrogant enough to be like, well, you know, obviously creating the first black entrepreneur company. We're going to do this like I was always, you know, that arrogant kind of thing. And so we go to this GDC, and Joe Salter, shout out to Joe Salter, and Kevin Brown brought Gerald to the conference. And, you know, so he's sitting there talking, and you know, you're thinking, I'm doing this black new thing, and then the guy who invented the cartridge is black. Like, I don't know nothing, you know, like.
Yeah, but by the way, indeed, for those who don't know Gerald Lawson, first of all, shame on you, Google. But indeed, he was the guy who created the cartridge that inspired our industry, that created the. You know, sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to make sure that if people don't know, you should know, especially if you're in this industry.
So we talked afterwards for some time, and I was really ashamed, actually. Like, I mean, I really was. I was really ashamed that I had not known about him, you know. And he passed away less than a year later. He passed away before the next GDC. So that's the first only time he came to GDC, and that's when we met him. And so I was touched, because I was like, I don't know how that happened. And so I told the Black Gaming Leadership Group at the time, we should create an award for this guy, because I knew awards create legacy. And so Black Game at the time didn't have the funding or the resources to do that. So they like the idea, they were like, you know, X, Y, and Z. And so we didn't do it. So a couple years later, I created the IGJ Black and Game SIG, because the diversity SIG went away, and I wanted us to have an event at GDC every year. And I had a friend at Google, Cheryl Shen, and Cheryl had heard me rant about the award for like 3 years. So I was like, we should do this award. And I was always mad about it. And so she was like, Carl, you know, we do this award. And she got Google to pay for it. She was like, okay. So she sent me meetings at Google, was like, we'll do luncheon for you. And so I was like, okay. So I sat down and thought. Kevin Brown, who had started Black in Gaming, was kind of retiring a little bit. Nicole Bradford was in charge of, at that time, she was the studio head of Blizzard World of Warcraft in China. And she was leaving the industry. Jeff, who worked at NVIDIA, he had created the Stargate animation. He was leaving the industry. And I was like, all these, like, to me, they were luminaries. And they are. And I was like, no one's gonna know who they are, you know. So I was like incensed. So I called Karen. I called Joe, and then he called Karen Lawson, and we had a discussion. And I was like, Karen, please come. We're gonna do this award show. We got to honor your dad. And Karen said, okay. She came to the award show, and we created the award. And then we did the first awards luncheon. Next year, we did it in conjunction with EA and Sony because they were doing a different event. They were doing a panel. We did it right after the panel. It was like, and it wasn't even a big thing. It was like maybe 30 minutes, and we gave Gordon Bellamy the first ever.
Shout out to Gordon. My God, yep.
Lifetime Achievement Award. And Gordon did this 40-minute speech when he had 4 minutes on the podium. It was ridiculous. And
he misread the 4 to 40. Yeah.
It was one of the great speeches of all time. I mean, it was one of the great moments like you ever saw. And Davina Mackey at Sony, after the event was over, came to me and said, "Hey, you did a good thing. We can make this better." And so a committee was formed. Davina, Laura Teclamariam from EA, a couple other, Kojo from Sony, all a bunch of us, and we sat down. Like I said, we kind of committeed it. Then they kind of expanded from there. And the Sony group came up with doing the actual award from the cartridge, and that's the version of the award we have now. So like it kind of evolved to that, and now all these really great people are involved now. I'm kind of like the emissary that kind of just watches everything. But Trinidad Black is now like the senior producer of it, and her team.
I've seen her shine this year as well. Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible to watch, like your kids, do it now. Like, hey, all this great Black in gaming, and you get to kind of like watch them become who they're going to become. It's kind of great to see that now.
And kudos to you and your team for doing something like this, because I agree with you. Like, it's, if you guys would not have created this, some people might have gotten forgotten about.
Yes,
people that the luminaries that you mentioned. So really, thank you for doing that, and also thank you for inspiring me with doing that and building this platform and bringing it back, because I believe that also your story, it's also super important to document, even though you've shared your story a few times already, and I'm not asking you per se the most newest question that you've never answered before, but I think it's super important for people like yourself to also get your flowers, because it's important. It's important. What you're doing is important, and and I think that representation, the fact that you as an African American man have done so much, I hope that inspires the next generation of people that can do it even bigger and better than you and I have already been doing. And that's why I also wanted to build this platform to give you your flowers and give you your stage that I think you deserve much more of.
That's always the hope, right? I was watching Jay at Afrotech a couple weeks ago with the president of Blizzard, and I watched those two Black women on the stage, one running a major company, and the other one is major influencer on the prime stage of a big conference, and talking about what they're doing in industry. You only hope I couldn't even hope that to be a reality when I was 2001, 2000. Like when we started this process. So to see people, you get super excited because they get to accomplish things that you only dreamed they could have accomplished. Like, people don't even know how much it means to you.
And you helped build that. And you helped build that. You contribute to that, dude. So it's like, once again, kudos. And it must probably also, I mean, what does that feel like when you're watching that? Does it give you the goosebumps and these kind of things, or does it do anything to you? Do you feel anything? Or it's more of a...
It depends on how close they are to you, right? So you get emotional sometimes. Like when I see Jabari or David Hooker or those people like do their thing, I get super like, because that's direct mentorship, right? But then you see people that you have tangential mentorship too. Then you have like kind of funny stuff. Like I always talk with John Jennings, because John Jennings is like one of the great, like, smartest people in the industry. He runs like the Black and Gaming, like, activism stuff now. It's just incredibly hard to do. I was joking, like, it ain't easy, is it? He's like, nah, I see what you saw. I see all the problems now, Carl. Like, it's like I so that part's kind of funny. But then you watch people that are that you kind of like just want to give a gentle nudge, like, hey, what do you need help with? Like Tim Davis is just super smart. And like, I just want to be like, hey, what can I be of assistance to? How can I be? Or Trinidad, same thing. Trinidad doesn't need my mentorship. She just need me to be like, hey, this is the thing we're doing. It's what I see. But you see them do their thing, the things they're doing, and you're like, that's impressive. I think that's pretty impressive. And so I get excited about those things. And I got to give some shout outs too, because Dennis Matthews, who's been with me probably 25 years of doing stuff in the industry, and it was always like kind of a like next to me, like, you know, in the next to me spot, like, hey, Corey, this thing, Cornell Wright, like these guys were always like the same GCs I went to, same GCs they went to. Cornell has been staff at on the volunteer side for years, and so he's always been like really active and help people that are volunteers in Black and get in industry, and people at Columbia College, and like he's always been like this guy who's really been a champion of getting people in the industry. You know, even though him himself decided to go in a different direction for his own career, he still was advocating people to get in the industry. So I think that's really important too.
And first of all, thank you for shouting him out. I already saw David was in the chat. Appreciate it. Since I'm respectful of your time because you have other meetings and we only have 4 minutes left, let me wrap it up. If we talk again in 2027, what do you hope exists then that doesn't today?
First of all, the games I'm gonna put out. I got 3 games I'm gonna produce in 2 years, and I have 3 transmedia properties I want to do. They're separate from the games. The first game it's called Strain Breakers.
Never. Yeah, Strain Breakers, The Last MC, Never Wonder, right?
Never Wonder. Yep, those are the ones I'm working on right now. Those are. I'm big on those. Strain Breakers is the one I'm really excited about because it's World of Apocalypse, which is going to be really interesting. And that game has a twist in it that I haven't told anybody about. That's a really interesting idea. And then Never Wonder. I was working on that last night. Actually, I'm going to figure that out. It's so interesting to see what like the next tools are that we're using, because everything's changing so fast. You know what I mean? Like you build one pipeline, and in 4 months it breaks, and there's another pipeline.
Yeah. That's actually, it's a good segue to a question that we got from Tobe. What are your thoughts on ethically leveraging AI for narrative design in video games? I think that's probably a final question because that might be a long answer.
Well, so AI has the ethics of AI have 2 things. One is they sourced it incorrectly, and they stole from people's like intellectual property to give them the intelligence to be AI, right? So that's the first issue. The second issue is using the AI pipeline take away from creatives having jobs in the industry, right? So that's the 2 issues I see as the main issues, and I think both are very valid. The first one is brainstorming with AI. I think if you can, I think that's fair, because that would be any other library, or you would just find that way to do that anyway. Like there's no real difference between AI and Google in that regard. It's how the AI gets the information back, or AI and library. It's just that we need to pay the authors of the material, right? Generating AI content, I think we got some things we need to work out, you know. And there's some things I'm trying to understand that I don't understand yet that I'm trying to figure out. So, okay, so let's say generating from Midjourney, 100% stolen, right? But if you get an artist to design your 2D character, you take that to Meshy and then change it to 3D character. What is that? How does that work? You know, what's the issue with that? You know, that's the job. So true. I think there's some confusion over like what ethically is possible, you know, so to answer that question. So, and then we have to talk about as well is early hip hop did not get their samples cleared at first. They just did them.
That's true.
Right? So there's some things about like, do you just create the industry you're looking for and then you just go back and say, I'm sorry, and give you money? You know, like there's some things about like if we're 2% of the industry, maybe 3 in a good year, and we control nothing in the industry at all, really, like then why are you arguing with me about ethics of AI when I don't have any industry impact at the level you want me to anyway? Like, what is it, should I just go out and make a company that makes enough money to hire people, and then those 15 jobs came from using AI? So it's a very dicey thing when you're somebody that doesn't have the power, or it's trying to hold you to. Here's my point. Napster came out in the 2000s, and everyone was against MP3s. It was everybody argued, everybody said it was wrong, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
And then Apple figured it out, and now suddenly it was overnight.
Mm-hmm.
It changed into digital industry, so like you got to be super careful about having them tell you no on a broadcast scale, and then it become industry standard the next day, and you're not prepared for it. So be careful of that. That's all I'm saying.
Man, I have the feeling that we could talk for another hour, man. Damn, it's a shame that was only an hour, because there is so much knowledge that you already shared in the short time. So first of all, thank you for that. Like I said, I want to be respectful of your time because I know you have another meeting after this one. So Carl, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you.
Really. That was very kind of you, Leon. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And for the people that watched and joined and asked all the questions, appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another amazing guest, which I'm not going to announce yet, but she's amazing. Also kind of tied into narrative and voice direction and all these kind of things.
All right.
So yeah, we're going to dive deep in like narrative design and voices and how you all do all these kind of things. But Carl, once again, thank you for your time. I wish you all the best with the upcoming projects that you're working on. I'll definitely keep a close eye on them. And I hope to meet you in person at the awards or somewhere else, because I've seen
we gotta get you on the list. We gotta get your awards. You're on the list this year. We gotta figure it out.
Oh, I'll make it happen then. We'll make it happen then. Alrighty. Thank you very much, good sir. Viewers, thank you so much for all of this conversation and all the questions. Appreciate it. As mentioned, we'll be back in 2 weeks. This was Black Game Pro Sessions, and thank you very much.